right, everyone, welcome. Glad you guys are here. Thank you to SMU for coming here and taping this. My name is Robin Munson. I handle the adult programming here at the library. We have a few other things that are going to be going on, and I want to talk to you about them. Book discussion, we have this every month, but this month, November 21st at 6 o'clock, we are discussing the book The Zigzag Girl by Ellie Griffiths. This is a murder mystery, kind of the old school murder type mystery, set in England in 1950, and it deals with magic and also the 1950s war era, you know, after the war, coming back from the war. So kind of talking about the magic men who were people in the war that tried to do camouflage and things like that. So that's what this book is about. If you're interested in it, we should have some more copies left for you to check out later on. We have free stuff for all ages for the Grand Meander. So when the Grand Meander's here, the library will be open, and we are going to be providing free ornament making kits for families or for individuals. So it's going to be a wood ornament that you can paint and decorate however you want. We'll also be providing anyone with a cocoa kit, which is basically you can take it home and make yourself your own cup of cocoa. We're also going to have giant Candyland set up for the kids to have a lot of fun with. And we're going to have free book giveaway from Thrivent in the library, and they'll be giving away books for kids. So that is December 5th, and it's from 5 to 7. Come and go. Movie night, December 12th at 6 o'clock p.m. We are doing Jerry and Marge Go Large. So this one is starring Bryan Cranston and Annette Bening, and it is based on a true story about a couple in a small town who learned how to play the lottery. So they were winning lots of stuff from the lottery, and they decided to invest it within their town. So it should be a pretty interesting movie if you're interested in coming to that. So now, I just want to make sure that all of you have your phones shut off before we start the play here today. But we have our one-woman solo musical act done by Jillann Gabrielle. And this is Oh, Jackie, Oh.
Welcome to this performance of Oh, Jackie, Oh, an original solo musical based on the life of Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, written by, directed by, and starring Jillann Gabrielle, an iconic figure since her marriage to John Fitzgerald Kennedy, the 35th President of the United States. Jackie reveals her true self, the Jackie whom you probably do not know, unless you are a Jackie scholar. And now, Mrs. Onassis, an intensely private individual, requests that you silence your cell phone so that she can recount her story in Oh, Jackie, Oh, another provocative and delightful production from Paradise Playhouse. Maurice, it's Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Yes, they're positive. I'm okay. I've got an old friend with me, vodka. Gets me through all my worst moments. I'll see you when you get home. I'll be fine until then. Take care, my darling. Oh, what a life I've led, beyond my wildest dreams. Obviously, I was well bred, thanks to my my controlling mother's schemes, despite my loving father's screams, as he came apart at the proverbial seams. Oh, nothing really is as it seems. But I'm Jacqueline Lee Bouvier Kennedy Onassis, born in 1929, the year of the crash, in love with all things equine. I paid the price for my cash. Yes, I'm Jacqueline Lee Bouvier Kennedy Onassis, taught to be charming and oh so disarming. It's really quite alarming how fascinating I am. I'm full of the devil, but always on the level, almost never disheveled. Oh, how infuriating I am. And somehow I managed to have 2 wonderful children. I'm Jacqueline Lee Bouvier Kennedy Onassis. Never cared much for politics, yet I was married to a president. Gave the White House a major fix as a first lady resident. Yes, I'm Jacqueline Lee Bouvier Kennedy Onassis. Married into the upper classes and renowned for my sunglasses. Oh, I'm Jacqueline Lee Bouvier Kennedy Onassis, but they call me Jackie O. My childhood started out magically. I can still smell the scent my mother wore and feel the softness of her fur coat as she leaned over to kiss me goodnight. Your father and I are going dancing tonight at the Central Park Casino to hear Eddie Duchin. I've always been a great mimic. But underneath my mother's exquisite exterior lurked a violent temper. Once she even locked me in a closet. Jacqueline, with those big manly hands and Greta Garbo feet, it's very unlikely any A-list beau will find you feminine enough to marry. I started working on my appearance and my clothes. Instead of my usual voice, I developed this whispery one. I'd seen Marilyn Monroe in Niagara, and I thought, if I talked like her, men would find me interesting. Mummy found out about my father, Blackjack's philandering, when he seduced the heiress Doris Duke during their honeymoon on the Aquitania. I adored Blackjack. Daddy would instruct me on how to attract men. To be noticed in a crowd, walk to the center of the room, put on a dazzling smile, and keep your chin up. Remember, style is not about how rich you are, but a state of mind that puts quality before quantity. That's what makes you a Bouvier. I learned to read well before I started school and took refuge in my favorite books. Early on, Mummy thought I would end up to be a writer of some sort. Turns out that Mummy was right on more than one account. At the age of 2, she put me on a horse, and I fell in love. And like Mummy, I won many horsemanship competitions on my favorite horse, Danseuse. When I was 11, Mummy finally got a Reno divorce from Blackjack, and I was devastated. Secretly, I hoped for a career as a screenwriter, or perhaps even a movie star. I was then shipped off to Vassar College, too far away from New York City and Blackjack. I studied history, art, and literature, spending most summers in Europe. In '51, my younger sister Lee and I finally got to sail together, courtesy of our stepfather. Europe has always been my second home. Je t'adore, Paris and London and Rome. In fact, I was definitely qualified to be a European tour guide. In Paris, you must visit the Louvre to improve your knowledge of art. And when you've finished, you go on your merry way and take a walk along the Champs-Élysées. And then you can't forget the splendid Eiffel Tower. Then take a stroll on the left bank during an afternoon shower. Oh, I've always had a love affair with Europe. There's really nothing like it to make me cheer up, except perhaps riding my horse, Danseuse. In London, there's the British Museum with Egyptian mummies. You can actually see them. And then there's Parliament and famous Big Ben. Off to a pub for lunch to meet some handsome men. And then you have to visit Buckingham Palace. But by that time, you might find you need some digitalis. Oh, I've always had a love affair with Europe. There's really nothing like it to make me cheer up, except perhaps a diamond bracelet from Tiffany's. And then you can't forget the Roman Colosseum. It's like a museum, only out of doors. Oh, I've always had a love affair with Europe. There's really nothing like it to make me cheer up, except maybe the 25 mil Teddy wrangled out of the Onassis estate. Ooh la la, ooh papa, bellissimo. 2 years after my mother's devastating divorce from Blackjack, she married up when she became the third wife of Hugh Dudley Auchincloss Jr., nicknamed Hughie. He was a stockbroker and a lawyer and had 3 large estates. When I was 18, my family gave me my coming out party at my stepfather's Hammersmith Farm estate in Newport, Rhode Island.
Dance, ballerina, dance.
Wearing a pearl necklace and an off-the-rack white gown, I glided down the stairs looking fresh and virginal. clearly the belle of the ball. I was named Debutante of the Year. Also in '51, I entered Vogue magazine's Prix de Paris contest. Competing against 1,000 other contestants, I wrote an essay on high fashion and people I wished I had known, like Oscar Wilde and Charles Baudelaire. Oops. Charles Baudelaire. I also wrote that I imagined myself creating wonderful things from an art director's chair hanging in space. And I won. But Mummy forbid me to accept it. You're not going to meet any wealthy, eligible bachelors in Paris. Mummy made it very clear to my sister and me that we would not receive any of Hughie's substantial estate. I've done my very best to bring you both up in the social graces, and you will both wed wealthy, eligible bachelors. Even at 18, I was a chain smoker and bit my fingernails to the quick. I would sit for an hour or so listening to the inane rantings of some jerk on a date, pretending to hang on his every word. And then I met the handsome and charismatic Congressman Jack. Kennedy. I want a dangerous man who sports a dangerous tan and has a dangerous plan to save the world. No boring housewife life for me. I need the spotlight right on me. I want a dangerous man for this upright East Coast girl. I need someone who is brilliant and also resilient. He must be charismatic, and for me he would be aphrodisiac. I want a dangerous man for this heady East Coast girl. I want a dangerous man who's from a dangerous clan and drives a big black sedan, who's at the center of the world. No tiresome humdrum life for me. I need the spotlight right on me. I want a dangerous man for this uptight East Coast girl. And my Jack was a congressman, senator, president, which made me a White House president. The First Lady. Oh, I hate that name. Sounds like a racehorse. Oh, yes, a dangerous man. He's the man for me. First, to Jack, I was just another debutante from Newport. But we had many things in common. We were both extremely well-read and shared an immense love for history and literature. Both Jack and his father made it clear to me that one day Jack would be president at the center of the world. And Papa Joe promised that Jack would give me a decent role in the drama. But with his reckless womanizing, I realized that Jack would have a profound, perhaps even disconcerting effect on my life. I was totally in love with him. Part of my attraction to Jack was his womanizing, just like Black Jack. We were both Catholic, and even though religion was superficial to us, it was significant at the time. I adored Papa Joe. He thought I was the perfect package for Jack and more or less ordained our marriage. I was in London when Jack finally called to propose. A week later, Papa Joe said, "You're part of the family now, Jackie. Whatever you want, it's yours." Beautiful things, I love my beautiful things. Bracelets and rings that come from present day kings. A stunning gown from Christian Dior, made with silk from old Singapore. A suit from Chanel, some diamonds on the lapel. In the latest pastel, oh, je t'adore. Beautiful things, oh, I need more. A gorgeous handbag in crocodile with matching pumps that will surely beguile. A ravishing blouse, one in every color. I can't have anyone stealing my thunder. Sensational slacks, of course they're from Saks. Dazzling jacket, nothing's out of my bracket. Beautiful things, I love my beautiful things. They give my heart wings, and when I don them it sings. My custom-made coat from Ole Cassini, a romp on the beach in my Holston bikini, an American queen who leads the high fashion scene in a rare triple strand of genuine pearl, defined by my fineness, elegant and timeless. I must never appear spineless. My beautiful things make me beautiful, 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 beautiful girl. Time magazine eventually dubbed me the First Lady of Fashion. We were married in Newport, but I was permanently transformed into a Kennedy. It didn't go this way on my wedding day. Did it get flipped around? Yeah, I think it got flipped around. I don't know. Oh, I was permanently transformed into a Kennedy. Jack had been born with a bad back, which returned with a vengeance soon after our wedding. I believe I kept him alive. Jack, what about that book you've been thinking about writing? You know, Profiles in Courage. I conducted the research, and I also brought it to my professor at George Washington University for corrections and suggestions. It garnered a Pulitzer Prize. After losing 2 babies, 1 full term, I finally had a successful pregnancy, and our daughter, Caroline, came into the world.
You are my special angel.
It was the happiest day of my life. When Jack first saw her, he declared her as robust as a sumo wrestler and nicknamed her Buttons. For the first time in my marriage, I felt like I was winning. The 1960 campaign was like living in a hurricane. Pregnant with John Jr., I appeared on numerous interview programs like The Today Show starring Dave Garroway. Women's Wear Daily reports that you spend $30,000 a year on your clothes. Oh, Mr. Garroway, I couldn't spend that much unless I wore sable underwear. On election day, I cast only 1 vote for Jack. A few weeks later, I gave birth to John Jr. Caroline and John, I finally felt at last I was fulfilled as a woman. Then, a few weeks before we moved into the White House, Mamie Eisenhower invited me to take a tour. When Jack and I moved into the White House, everywhere you looked, there were tall brass spittoons. You know, the kind you would find in saloons, who entertained the Danube boots of the West. Depressed palms drooped in every single corner. Everywhere you looked, there was such disorder. Even Jack said, "It looks like Sears Roebuck." Everything had definitely run amok. Then I said, "The White House is a snake pit, and if I don't take care of it myself, I'll have an anaphylactic fit." Every lampshade, every vase, and every andiron came under my careful inspection. With 132 rooms, I had to hire 2 experts to guide my collection. Henry Dupont, the historical guru, and Monsieur Boudin, the designer from Paris. 2 geniuses whom I would turn to, and in return, I'd attract millionaires and millionairesses. But the circus, and I'm the queen of the White House. I'll restore this palace with such a good eye that de Gaulle will be embarrassed of Versailles. Yes, I'm the queen of the circus. I roamed throughout the house discovering treasures, and then cast out all the horrors. Scores of paintings from museums, what a pleasure, but I can't stand Victorian mirrors. Mr. Annenberg, you're painting a Benjamin Franklin. $250,000? Please profusely thank him. Linden, dear, about that chandelier from the Capitol. No one dare says no to me. That's not autocratical. Because I'm the queen of the circus, and I'm the queen of the White House. And then CBS ran the tour of the results, and we won an Emmy, then everyone exulted. Now I'm truly the queen of the circus. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. But in April, the Bay of Pigs operation, which Eisenhower had approved, turned out to be a debacle. To keep my sanity, I pushed ahead with the restoration of the White House. And Jack and his brother Bobby, now Jack's Attorney General, had their hands full with protecting and supporting those fighting for their civil rights. I was more than happy to do my part, as I was in complete sympathy with the movement. I invited wonderful artists of all races to perform regularly in the East Room. But I had a running battle with the press. Once, they even snapped a photo of me toppling off my mount at a horse show. I phoned Jack long distance and begged him to have the photo killed. Jackie, when the First Lady falls on her ass, it's news. Keeping the children out of the press was a crusade, even though they were always in the press. But the most stressful time during our years in the White House was the 13 days of the Cuban Missile Crisis. I don't think any of us slept. I just want to be with you. Please don't send me anywhere. I just want to be with you, praying my desperate prayer. If there's not room in the White House shelter, we'll go stand out on the moon. If the world becomes helter-skelter, we'll both be with Caroline and John. We just want to die with you. Please don't send us anywhere. We just want to die with you, praying our desperate prayer. Rather than live without you. Thank God Jack was able to negotiate an appeasement with Khrushchev and Castro and save the world from nuclear destruction. But I feared for Jack's recklessness. And his back got so bad at some points that he even had to resort to using crutches for the pain. Jack never complained. He was a soldier. And somehow, I guess through his Hollywood connections, he found out about a New York physician, Dr. Max Jacobson, whom the Secret Service nicknamed Dr. Feelgood. He gave Jack shots filled with God knows what, and which alleviated his back pain and gave him energy. Jack was so convinced of their effectiveness, he said, "I don't care if it's horse piss. It works." So I decided to give him a try to help me push through the restoration of the White House. I had unbelievable migraines and tension, and they worked like a charm. In fact, they worked so well that Jack and I flew Dr. Feelgood and his wife with us to Europe in '61 for our tour of Paris, Vienna, and London. We were a huge hit. That Paris state visit made me an international superstar. But in Vienna, Chairman Khrushchev bullied and humiliated my Jack. My shit detector skills were on a high alert, so I decided to run some interference. The chairman demanded to sit next to me at dinner. "We now have many, many more teachers in the Ukraine than during the reign of the Tsars." Oh, Mr. Chairman, don't bore me with statistics. The Viennese newspapers proclaimed, "Jackie enchants the Soviet pig." After losing another child, baby Patrick, I was very slow to recover and suffered from postpartum depression. My sister Lee had been dating Aristotle Onassis, and they invited me to recuperate aboard his yacht. "Christ, Jackie! Onassis is an international pirate!" But Jack reluctantly agreed to let me go. Ari was extremely charming and larger than life. He catered to my every whim. He oozed a mixture of money, sex, and mystery. I want a dangerous man who sports a dangerous tan and has a dangerous plan to rule the world. No tiresome humdrum life for me. I need the spotlight right on me. I need a dangerous man for this queenly European girl. When the yacht finally docked in Istanbul, Ari gave me a ruby and diamond bracelet from Van Cleef & Arpels, worth about $80,000. Jack appealed to my guilt feelings when he asked, "Will you join us next month in Texas?" "I'll campaign with you wherever you want, Jack." On the flight to Dallas, Jack said, "After last night, Jackie, there will be no other women, only you." Oh, Jack, if only you meant that. We were the first to deplane in Dallas. I was presented a bouquet of red roses. During all our other Texas stops, I had received yellow roses. Were they trying to tell me something? We got into the midnight blue Lincoln Continental convertible and joined the motorcade from the airport. The sidewalks were filled. At one point, Mrs. Connolly said, "You certainly can't say that the people of Dallas haven't given you a nice welcome." Then I heard what I thought was backfire from one of the police motorcycles. Jack cried out, "My God, I'm hit!" Then a second shot, it sounded like a rifle, hit Jack in the neck. And I tried in vain to pull him down out of the line of fire, but his back brace made that impossible. I was looking directly into his face when the third shot hit. His last expression was so beautiful. A piece of his skull came flying off. Then he slumped in my lap. There were beautiful pink rose rings inside of his skull. I knew he was dead. Then, I'm told, I climbed out the back onto the trunk. Clint Hill, my bodyguard, said I had grabbed a big piece of Jack's skull and brains, but I just don't remember any of that. But I held Jack's brains in my hand. Jack's blood was everywhere, in my hair, and on my skirt, and on my stockings. I was covered in blood from head to toe. Lady Bird asked, "Don't you want to change your clothes, honey?" "No. I want them to see what they did to my husband." Jack had finally come to appreciate me and what I had done for him, and had come to love me, and it was all taken away in just 8 seconds. Bobby came bounding onto the plane when it landed back in Washington, D.C. Oh, Bobby, this is the first day of the rest of my life. A life without Jack. But I still have my children. I must protect them at all costs. Ari surprised me when he phoned me at the White House. I invited him to stay with us, but during Jack's Irish wake, they were at loggerheads. He and Bobby, they literally despised each other. Ari did not stay for the funeral. I did not have an appropriate veil, so I borrowed one from Rose Kennedy. I had never before been called upon to have such resolute willpower. I modeled Jack's funeral after Abraham Lincoln's. A riderless horse with boots reversed in its stirrups followed the coffin.
Each evening
Ironically,
from December
the horse's
to
name
December,
was Blackjack.
before you drift to sleep upon your
The
cot,
week following Jack's
think
funeral,
back on all the tales
I met with
you
writer
remember.
Theodore White from Life magazine. Jack and I would listen to the score of Camelot
Ask every
during our
person
1,000
if
days
he's
in the
heard
White House.
story.
I desperately needed to recast the image of Jack's presidency. If he had lived,
that once there
the
was a
scandals
fleeting
from his
wisp of
personal
memory.
behavior would have devastated his political career. Instead, he left the Oval Office a hero, a martyr, and a great statesman. I cried, I drank, I took pills. I was inconsolable. I became suicidal. I finally purchased a house on O Street, which fast became Washington's biggest tourist attraction. The press were merciless. There were photographers and reporters outside our door. Round the clock. Click! Must I always endure this hounding from the press? Click! Adding ever increasing levels to my stress. And I never know when they will appear, which adds to the very depth of my fear. My life is reduced to being a deer in the headlights. Click, click, click. Don't they know that I'm shattered inside? Step outdoors and there's nowhere to hide. Every click of a camera reminds me of Dallas. Oh, I wish I were over it, hardened and callous. But I held Jack's brains in my hand. Bobby was my lifesaver. I'd throw myself out the window for him. We'd always been close, but after Jack's death, we became emotionally and spiritually one.
Please lock me away and don't allow the day.
He was the Lancelot in my Camelot. The children would run and jump into his arms exactly the way they had with Jack. After less than a year, I couldn't stand living in Georgetown any longer. I thought maybe I could get lost in the crowds of New York like Greta Garbo. I bought this large apartment on Fifth Avenue. In lockstep with each other, Bobby decided to run for United States Senator from New York. Oblivious to the attention the world paid us, we publicly flaunted our mutual passion. Bobby had an altar boy image. He was anything but. Onassis continued to wait in the wings while huge bunches of red roses began arriving at my apartment every morning. The day after Bobby announced his candidacy for president, he begged me to wait to marry Onassis, at least until the election was over, so as not to damage his image. When Bobby was shot, I flew out to California. Teddy was praying at the foot of Bobby's hospital bed. Ethel was lying on another bed moaning. Doctor, we would like to disconnect the respirator. Are you speaking for the family? I am. Bobby was 42 years old. As I watched Bobby's casket being lowered into his grave, I decided to marry Aristotle Onassis. If they're killing Kennedys, my kids are #1 targets. I need to get out of this country. And all the while, the paparazzi continued to hound me, especially Ron Galella, whom I eventually had to take to court to get a restraining order. As I walked down the aisle at the little Greek Orthodox church on Scorpios, Mummy followed behind me, whispering in my ear, "Jacqueline, you don't have to do this. Mummy, please, don't do it. Don't do it. It's not too late to back out. Stop it, Mummy, or I'll never speak to you again."
The time of the season for love.
The newspapers round the world echoed the same sentiment. It's the end of Camelot.
What's your name?
Caroline and John liked Ari a lot. When the marriage was good, it was very, very good. But when it went bad, it was horrid. Ari's son, Alexander, was killed in a plane crash. Ari somehow felt that he was responsible. It took him almost a month before he could bring himself to bury Alexander on Scorpios, next to the tiny church where we had gotten married. I tried to console him, but he was inconsolable. I got through it the same way I got through both Jack's and Bobby's funerals. I detached and watched from my art director's chair hanging in space. Ari filed for divorce. He lost the will to live and developed myasthenia gravis, which progressed at an alarming rate. He was dying, and he knew it. He looked around for a scapegoat and found one. Me. Jackie is a witch. She killed my son. His daughter, Christina, echoed his sentiment. She's a black widow. To all my detractors, there are many factors which govern my behavior. And despite the superstitions of my Greek stepdaughter, I truly did savor my years with Jack and Bobby and Ari. So much so, I could make my stepdaughter sorry and prove her error in judgment. But I will not. I'll play her little game and go along with her claim on this innocent, defamed day. Oh, yes, they call me the Black Widow. I make my entrance from a stretched limo. I'm after anything that's green, 'cause I need millions when I'm green. And so they call me the Black Widow. My first victim, as you know, was my Jack, who had a problem staying out of the sack. There were so many other women, he even did it when he was swimming. I'd had enough, then my poor Jack was whacked. And then I took up with his younger brother Bobby. For 4 years he became my favorite hobby, but he wouldn't leave his rude wife Ethel, even though I swear she was the devil. Then he was murdered by Sirhan from Abu Dhabi. My second husband was the famous Aristotle Onassis, and with his millions, his new wife he loved to cuddle. But his son Alex crashed his plane, and Ari cracked under the strain. And then my lawyer, Teddy, attacked his estate full throttle. And I got 25 mil. Oh, yes, they call me the Black Widow. And I'm dangerous, so watch your husband, kiddo. But I couldn't help it, 'cause I'm evil. Some say positively medieval. And so they call me the Black Widow. Oh, yes, they call me the Black Widow. After Ari's death, I returned to New York permanently to tend to my children full time. I raised Caroline and John to be capable, successful human beings, away from too much Kennedy influence. Was drugs and drinking down in Hyannis after Bobby was murdered. I wanted both of my children to have the freedom and the independence that I had not been given. Caroline really is a marvelous creature. I was ecstatic when both of my children chose legal careers, even though it took John 3 times to eventually pass the bar exam. I can still see the headlines. The hunk flunks. Oh, Lord. But oh, is he a hunk. People magazine named him the sexiest man alive. But I'd rather see him go into politics than to continue with that silly magazine he's developing. On a happier note, it's been wonderful spending time with my 3 grandchildren. Caroline really is a marvelous mother. Well, of course she is. She has me as a role model. mother loves you both down to the bone. And no, you're not alone. Oh, Caroline and John, I sing you both my song, because I don't know how long I can be with you, Caroline and John. Soon I will be gone. I wish you all the love that you gave to me. Oh, Caroline and John, I know you'll carry on. And will you promise that you will be brave for me? Oh, Caroline and John. Caroline and John. By 1963, I had already achieved a life beyond my wildest dreams. And then in 8 seconds, I lost it all. And then I was finally left asking myself, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? I became a junior editor at Viking Press.
Walking in rhythm, moving in sound.
In '78, I was offered an associate editorship at Doubleday, one of the most prestigious publishers in the world.
I've been cheated, been mistreated. Where will I be loved?
I met Maurice Templesman back in the late 50s. Jack and other heads of state would consult with him for information and advice on African leaders. MT is a diamond tycoon and a major player in Africa. He's a financial wizard worth some 300 million, and he took my 20 million, which I cleared in my divorce from Ari, and turned it into 200 million overnight. He's no Jack. He's 5'8", balding, with a pot-bellied frame and sucks on a Dunhill cigar. But there's no infidelity. That's first. We adore each other. We've been devoted to each other for 16 years. I'm a different person than I was. And it's because of Maurice. I know who I am, where I've been, and where I'm going. Making the world the way I want it to be. Waking the world to see the things I wanted to see. A beautiful painting or a chair. A marvelous dance by Fred Astaire. An American symphony conducted by our friend Lenny Bernstein. Making the world the way I want it to be. Filling the people's house with things from our history. And when my husband Jack was killed, an American legend I would build. Camelot, where all people could be free. finding myself despite all the things life put against me. And now my career is editing books. I care so much less about my looks. I'm truly making the literary world the way I want it to be, while making the world the way I want it to be. Poor Jackie, abandoned by father, husbands and lovers, found a man who is faithful to me. I've got the world by the tail, and now I soon will be frail and gone. But how I shaped fashion with choices straight from my heart, and how I twisted Jack's arm to create the Kennedy Center for the performing arts. Shaping the world, creating the world, making the world a better place, like Jack and I wanted it to be. I can't believe it. I just can't believe it. I've always taken such good care of myself, exercised and watched what I've eaten every single day of my life. Mrs. Onassis, if you've ever regularly taken amphetamines during the course of your life, that could have triggered this. Dr. Feelgood. Oh, I did it to myself. Well, my parents would have been proud of me. I did exactly what they taught me to do. And I created and perpetuated. I suppose I will get through my own demise the same way I've gotten through every other challenge in my life. From my art director's chair hanging in space. Only this time I won't return to Earth. My children will do very well without me. I've devoted my life to giving them what I didn't have, love and security. Sell everything. You'll make a lot of money. When my Jack was killed, I was chilled to the bone with grief. I was contemplating suicide, which I knew wasn't dignified. I have a strong faith in God. That was never a facade. So I consulted with a priest who was at the very least sympathetic. And then he said, with an apologetic tone, "The church does not condone taking your own life under any circumstances." In other words, if I wanted to be reunited with Jack in heaven. I shouldn't be so short-sighted. So on my way home today, as I walked through Central Park, I noticed how beautiful the sky was, and how silly my dreadful urge to cry was. Everywhere I looked, it was spring, and then suddenly the birds all took wing. Oh, Jackie, how can you talk that way? It's so pedestrian. Why, you're a classy, avid equestrian. And then I asked myself how I really felt about dying. And I thought, when you gotta go, you gotta go. There's not much you can do to change the status quo. When you gotta go, you gotta go. Ring down the final curtain on the show. Oh, life is for the living, you know they always say, and death so unforgiving, so drink up and be gay, come what may. Oh, what the hay. Oh, Jackie, now you've really gone off the track. You're an editor, for Christ's sake. Oh, I'm coming, Jack. Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. Oh, brother, have I. But I'm not dead yet, and I know I'm headed for strife. But I'm Jacqueline Lee Bouvier Kennedy Onassis. Maurice, we're going to the Cirque for lunch and having some of their fabulous desserts. And I love my life. Thank you all for coming, and thank you to Robin for having the good taste to invite me. I'm happy to answer some questions if you have them.
How about John? Didn't he die?
Yes, he did.
He just didn't.
And but that was after she died.
Oh, was it after?
Yes,
she died?
yes, and she would have been terribly upset because she told him to be careful with the flying, but he had too much Kennedy blood in him and was reckless like everybody else in the Kennedy family. And there was no curse, it was just recklessness on their parts. All the way around, yeah.
And Caroline's in government now, isn't she?
Yeah, well, I think she's a lawyer. She was going to run for office, but she just didn't have it in her. She was more like Jackie, private. No, she wasn't like her brother or her father, who was very, gregarious and out there. And she's just a lawyer, I think. But I think she married into a lot of money, and I think she's very happy. It's a good relationship. So.
You're really a gifted lady.
Oh, thank you. I just like to have fun. Girls just want to have fun.
How old were you when you died? And
Okay, I do not speak as her. I speak as myself.
Okay.
Okay, just so you know.
okay.
How old was she when she died? 64.
Uh-huh.
Young.
And what did she die from?
Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Yeah. So, which probably came from They said either her hair dye or the drugs that she took when she was in the White House. Everybody was taking those drugs back then. Oh yeah, everybody was taking those drugs. It was kind of terrible. So.
Do you have another show planned for something else?
I've been doing a lot of shows, and I have one more show tonight. This is the second of 3 shows today. So we have another show tonight in Albert City, and this is my 5th show, and I'm working on my 6th one, which will be Lucille Ball. So a lot of people are maybe interested in having me back later in the year when it's done, next year, like in October or something. But my other shows are Hedda Hopper, the outrageous Hollywood gossip columnist in the hats, and Greta Garbo, the mysterious Swedish film star, Joan Crawford and Betty Davis, whom I play at the same time in the same body in Purgatory. And then Princess Diana, whom I did in May here, and I play her as an aging spirit haunting Kensington Palace. So I like to have a lot of fun, but I also like to do research and tell the truth, but then have fun with the truth. Because all of these ladies all had great personalities. They were very strong, great personalities, and I love to bring it out in the music, which is different than what other people do. These are truly theatrical shows that I just cut down for an hour and then write for library and senior center and retirement community consumption. So, yeah, I just want to have fun. Other questions?
Can you tell a little bit about your childhood? What led you to doing this?
Well, yeah, somebody interviewed me on the phone the other day. Well, Jackie and I kind of had similar childhoods in that they weren't great. And I think that helped to propel her. And I think it helped to propel me to do what I want to do. And I think you have to be strong no matter what. But I think that these women that I picked to do are all very strong. And I think I'm very strong. So I think it helps to work together to bring out all of these personalities. And I really choose them as vehicles for my talents. So I love what I do, and then I write these to showcase my talents. So, and so I guess it's all kind of about love. I love being on the stage. I love writing. I love communicating. I love entertaining. And if other people like it, great. It's a win-win. Yes.
Who's your favorite?
Of these people? Ooh. Well, I don't know. Probably the person I'm doing at the time, because I have to be in love with them to get up here and the cold air makes my nose run.
Right.
I'm kind of falling in love with Lucille Ball now, because I didn't know her as well as I did before I started all the research. So Lucy's, becoming very close to my heart. Probably if I had to choose one, it would be Princess Diana. Because the way I interpret her is a lot of fun, and vocally I give her lots of fun things to do. And I'm primarily a vocalist, that's how I was trained, so that's why I do a musical version. And it's different. Not everybody does it, They don't. Other questions? Well, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it, and I'd love to come back sometime. I'm sure we'll talk and see, if and when you'll have me back, but I will have my Lucy show next year at this time, but maybe in October when it's a little warmer.
Yes.
So, all right, thank you again for coming. Yes, oh yes, thank you. I have some merch, as one of my students likes to call it. So if any of you are looking for a nice mug, they're $15, and it's that with a lot of info on the back, and they're lovely mugs. So if anybody's interested, I've got a whole bunch of them. Thank you so much for coming.
Yep. Thank you, you guys. Thank you to Jillann. for
Oh, thank
being
you.
wonderful.
My pleasure.
Yes, and thanks to SMU. Drive safely.
Thank you.